Year. It is the first day of the year 2020 and it's good to be back. This is Housing Development, the authoritative source of housing information. Today, the combination of rising interest rates and rising home prices has outgrown what many Nigerians can afford. What are the predictions for the housing market in 2020? New Year typically comes with new resolutions. What are the resolutions of some Nigerians on home ownership? Get to find out soon on the program. Let's start by bringing you major headlines that made rounds in 2019 that may also affect the activities in the housing sector. Let's get started. I am Flora Ani, your housing diva.
In March 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari assented to the Engineers Amendment Act 2019. In April 2019, the House of Representatives rejected a call that the Federal Capital Territory Administration should change the name APO Legislative Quarters to reflect current realities. In April 2019, the presidency rejected National Housing Fund Bill. In May 2019, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, Abuja Metropolitan Management Council, demolished Caramello Lounge in the Wutako area of Abuja. The demolition came barely 3 weeks after FCTA officials arrested 32 alleged strippers at Caramello Lounge. In May 2019, Redden launched Real Estate Data System for housing delivery in Nigeria. In June 2019, Wells Fargo in the United States announced a new philanthropic strategy that will address the key issues of housing affordability and small business revitalization with $1 billion in grants and supports. In July 2019, the shareholders of Abbey Mortgage Bank PLC resolved, among others, to raise additional capital of 2.37 billion naira by way of private placement of the company's ordinary shares. In July 2019, NMRC, African Union of Housing Finance, AUHF, hosted breakfast session at Abuja International Housing Show. It was attended by leading stakeholders in the country. Also in July 2019, the 13th International Housing Show Abuja was attended by over 400 exhibitors and 40,000 participants. In August 2019, the federal government promised to address housing deficits by delivering 1 million houses per year to close the 17 million shortfalls by the year 2033. The Minister of State, Works and Housing, Abubakar Aliyu, said the government had decided to improve on current construction of 100,000 houses per year in order to meet the basic needs of the people. In September 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari split the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of infrastructure delivery programs and projects in the country. In September 2019, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Adequate Housing, Leilani Farah, visited Nigeria to examine issues including substandard housing conditions, forced evictions, access to services, and to justice for the right to housing and the conditions of particular vulnerable groups. The Nigerian Minister of Finance, Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, in September, inaugurated the board of the largest federal government social housing scheme, Family Homes Funds, at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja. In October 2019, the Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, Redden, revealed that the association is working with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and Special Control Unit on Money Laundering, SCUMO, since 2010 in making sure that the Nigerian real estate sector, which was rated in 2016 by international assessors as a medium high-risk area for terrorism financing and for money laundering, is sanitized. In October 2019, the Ministry of Works and Housing got the highest projected allocation of 262 billion naira from the 10.33 trillion naira budget estimates. In October 2019, the Lagos State government launched a real estate transaction portal to curb fraudulent practices in the real estate business. The Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, NIQS, unveiled a newly built secretariat and history book about the institute to mark 50 years of existence. Also in October, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, contacted internationally certified auctioneers overseas to auction off the $40 million worth jewelry recovered from a former Petroleum Resources Minister, Gezani Alison Madueke. Also in October 2019, Family Homes Funds, Nigeria's largest social housing fund, signed a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) with Africa's premier housing finance institution, Shelter Afrique, towards building more affordable homes in Nigeria. Still in October, A special delegation on behalf of the Abuja International Housing Show paid a courtesy call to the chairman, Senate Committee on Housing, Senator Sam Ewu, to discuss issues regarding collaboration and the outstanding bills in the National Assembly necessary for housing and construction industry developments. Facebook committed $1 billion to help address the affordable housing crisis in California and other communities where it works. In November 2019, the Central Bank of Nigeria set a minimum capital requirement of 10 billion naira for mortgage guarantee companies in the country. The new regulation was an improvement upon the exposure draft on the operations of mortgage guarantee companies, which was issued on October 17, 2018. In November 2019, the Kaduna State government earmarked 3 billion naira for the construction of official houses for low-income earners in 2020. This was revealed by the State Commissioner for Housing and Urban Development, Fausat Ibikunle. Earlier in December 2019, members of the Housing Development Advocacy Network condemned President Muhammadu Buhari's approval of 37 billion naira for the renovation of the National Assembly complex. HDAN, group of housing sector professionals dedicated to affordable housing advocacy, argue that with a housing deficit of over 20 million, it will only be appropriate if such funds were channeled towards affordable housing projects for the low and middle income earners in the country who are in desperate need of housing.
For more information on housing, finance and construction news, visit www.africanhousingnews.com, your 24/7 up-to-date housing news website. Moving on, Housing Development Advocacy Network, the leading non-governmental organization promoting the housing sector in Nigeria, has set agenda for the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, the National Assembly, Central Bank of Nigeria, and all housing-related agencies in Nigeria. Take a look.
Agenda setting and expectations from the federal government. In terms of a recovery, hope of a total recovery for Nigeria real estate in 2020 might not be in sight, as industry experts have predicted that there won't be a guaranteed rapid growth in the property market. Instead, they anticipate a combination of heightened uncertainty as financial and political issues globally get tighter, but a possibility for increased access to housing for the lower echelon of the Nigerian population if certain reforms are implemented. For instance, rather than seeking to raise an infrastructure bond of 10 trillion to pay contractors, the federal government should facilitate the creation of an enabling environment for infrastructure and housing guarantees to thrive. The government must keep off from involving in direct construction of housing and infrastructure in order not to create a clash of interest and focus solely on its core responsibilities of creating an enabling environment for business and investment to thrive through effective legislation and enforcement of policy. The government should be leaning towards credible partnerships with the private sector in terms of infrastructure and housing developers who have proven track record for infrastructure and housing delivery even in the absence of government support. Such private sector players need this partnership with the government in order to deliver more in 2020. The government should push for the amendment of laws that will foster infrastructure and housing sector development. Stakeholders expect the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing to deliver and eventually close the delivery of its National Housing Program, which is expected to deliver affordable housing to Nigerians across the country's 6 geopolitical zones and subsequently empower private sector players to deepen and carry on with the efforts already made in partnership with the government, while the government takes a backseat and regulator role going forward. Stakeholders expect that the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, steer clear of controversial assertions that might plunge the housing and infrastructure markets into deeper uncertainty. It is the expectation of stakeholders that the National Assembly would become more people-focused and expedite actions to review infrastructure and housing-related laws that are necessary for the sector's speedy growth and to ameliorate the growing restive population in terms of infrastructure and housing provision. The Central Bank of Nigeria should in 2020 see to the complete fruition of the mortgage interest drawback scheme and collaborate with Bankers Committee towards deepening the liquidity and opportunities derivable from affordable housing and mortgage provision. The central bank is also required to broaden its engagement skill set and extend its hand of fellowship and the benefit it has accorded to commercial banks, to other financial institutions, regardless of the systemic risk or balance sheet size, as this will improve its monetary policy effectiveness. For the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, a lot of stakeholders still expect more to be done, especially in the area of transparency and audited accounts. The bank should strike more partnership with other public and private institutions in the housing sector to achieve common goals. With an allocation of up to 30 billion naira, the federal government social housing scheme, Family Homes Fund, is expected to consolidate on already made progress in the provision of affordable housing to low-income earning Nigerians across the country. The fund is expected to sign up on more agreements like it did in 2019 in order to provide more affordable housing to those who need them. The Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company is making some progress under the present management. The major challenge to resolve for efficient performance is the impediments that comes with the fact that its board of directors largely consists of managers of its prime customers, which by global standards is a textbook case of conflict of interest. It is expected that its regulators under their code of governance laws should make necessary efforts to address and resolve these Achilles' foot. While commercial and merchant banks are out to increase their stakeholders' profits, the current foray into real estate and mortgage lending is largely mercantilist and very unaffordable for many Nigerians except the few rich ones. It is also known that the long tenure of housing projects discourages commercial banks from financing them. If that be the case, they should be more compliant in the area of contributions to the National Housing Funds as mandated by its Act. Aside from the activities of the World Bank in focusing on housing development through the National Housing Finance Program in partnership with Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance, most development finance and multilateral institutions, both local and foreign, have left so much to be desired in terms of their contributions to affordable housing development and mortgage finance. We do commend the efforts of Shelter Afrique and the Africa Development Bank, but as Africa-focused financial institutions, they can do far better than what they have so far proposed, particularly in the areas of mortgage financing and affordable housing provision. All eyes are now on Redden towards a successful handover to a new president. The major task before the Redden new president will be how to sustain advocacy, trainings, and programs that the outgoing president has established. Beyond that, Redden needs to adequately evolve as it still lacks structure and institutional capacity, unlike what was envisioned by its founders. The professional bodies such as NIA, NICEF, NITP, NIOB, NIQS, NSE, NIS, FOSI, APBM, and others must wake up to work together for the interest of the Nigeria housing and construction industry in the wake of salient issues like increased job losses to more competitive foreign laborers, as well as increase in the number of collapsed buildings across states in Nigeria, amongst other matters. Leading affordable housing promoters such as Ecostone International, Hydroform, Muladi, Lafarge, and other construction technology promoters that can help in increasing the speed of housing delivery from conventional methods to full-blown mass manufacturing methods should become more active in the coming year and expand their frontiers. It will be difficult to attain affordable housing without looking into the components of housing construction, most of which are imported. Nigeria must begin to promote policies that will attract investment in the development of local manufacturing of building materials by adopting results of research centers like NIBRI and universities for local building materials development and manufacturing. For full details of this agenda from Housing Development Advocacy Network, visit www.africahousingnews.com.
There is a need for the government to take drastic measures that will salvage the housing sector in 2020. We all hope for a better housing sector this year. I'll be back in a moment.
Well, my name is Architect Ahmed Dangiwa, Federal Mortgage Bank MD, and I want all Nigerians to be watching this program.
You're watching Housing Development. You're watching Housing Development, the only TV program that gives you the best information on housing in Nigeria. Are you dreaming of buying a home in 2020? Congratulations! Buying your first home is an amazing goal to work towards. The year 2020 is your year to become a homeowner. Let's start the year off right with some helpful resolution that will put you on the path to home ownership before the end of the year. Here's some Nigerians speak.
Personally, I feel like having a house in Abuja next year, 2020, maybe in one of the estate or in suburb in the FFCT.
I want to get I want to move into like a 2-bedroom flat. So that is my dream for next year. So I think I have to increase my financial power to actually help me achieve that.
Every man has a plan of getting a house. Housing is a basic necessity for a human, and I'm not an exception to that. I actually have some plans on ground to be able to own a house. As a worker, I save, and moreover, I'm into some businesses which are trusting God that this year I should be able to own a house as well.
In this coming year 2020, I dream and plan to own a good home in the heart of Abuja. First of all, there are some businesses and some deals I'm out there to strike, and I believe that through that means I'll be able to acquire a home. Even if I cannot pay outrightly or at a stretch, I believe that there are some schemes in which one can pay instrumentally.
Truly, I want to live paying rent for this 2020. That's by the grace of God. I pray that God will give me the grace so that I'll be able to get money and start my own small place where I have started building small, but I have not completed it yet. But I'm hoping by the grace of God this 2020, I will try to finish it and pack in.
My reason is to have more, to expand from where I am. I'm privileged to have a house, but in next year, 2020, I pray that God will give me more house, like houses built and give other people that doesn't have. I also build for rent also. That's what I pray.
I'm Debbie Erb. I work for OPIC in the United States, and keep watching the Affordable Housing Development Program.
With the right attitude, determination, and the right plan, your resolution of owning a home this year can be achieved. Now let's take a look at 2020 real estate outlook. Experts' prediction for the year. Where is real estate market headed in 2020? Let's find out.
Predictions for 2020. Private equity participation, mergers and acquisition in housing finance. In 2020, there is an expectation for more mergers and acquisitions, especially in the mortgage sector of the Nigerian economy. In 2019, Trust Bond Mortgage, Abbey Building Society, Resort Savings and Loans have experienced acquisitions which have positioned them to deliver on their mandates. It is expected that more will follow suit, raise their capitals, and provide affordable mortgages for more Nigerians on the low to upcoming middle income range. Linking PropTech and cooperative housing. As means of meeting the teeming demand for affordable housing, there are opportunities in pursuing impact that the pooled efforts offered by cooperative housing. However, it is also important that cooperative structures in Nigeria are bedeviled by governance issues, as the enabling laws and cultural underpinnings that has made it a success and a force to be reckoned with is largely absent in Nigeria. This is where linking this opportunity with technology will become the next frontier for affordable housing finance markets. PropTech by itself will not yield the expected leverage in Nigeria, but with the transactional base of cooperative housing and mortgage, the mutual benefits of both innovations should become a key focus for investors and practitioners in 2020. Linking youth restiveness and millennial housing. For 2020, it is expected that there will still be lull in the provision of housing for the high-end segments. However, there will be a boost for those in low to upcoming middle income. Hence, the focus for developers, investors in 2020 should be how to develop a catchment market for the provision of housing for upcoming middle income earners and youthful or millennial segments of society if we are to successfully combat restiveness, banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism.
My name is Munia Tagma. I encourage you to watch Housing Development.
Welcome back. You're still watching Housing Development. It is that time of the year where everyone can reflect on what they have done in the last year and create goals for themselves for the new year. For many people, one of the New Year's resolutions may include them finally purchasing their dream home. If you have never been a homeowner, the process of finding a home and dealing with your finances may look overwhelming. However, it is completely doable and manageable if you stay organized and know what you are looking for. Here are some New Year's resolutions that you can implement into your lifestyle to prepare you for your dream home.
New Year resolutions that you need to buy a home. Save for a down payment. The first resolution you need for 2020 is to determine what your desired down payment is. Without a clear idea, it's an impossible goal towards. Once you have your number, decide how much more you need to save to reach that and divide by the number of months you have before you hope to buy a home. That's your monthly goal. Now, stick to it. Look at your monthly bill. Saving for a down payment on a new home is one of the most important parts of the home buying business. It's important to plan out your savings now if your goal is to purchase a new home in the future. Limit any unnecessary purchases, especially big ones, until you've reached your biggest goals. New cars, technology, and fancy vacations can wait. This year, the focus is buying a home. Avoid changing careers. Alongside income, your employment history will be a major factor during your mortgage application evaluation. While a new job could be a good career move, most evaluators are looking for a steady job history with little to no gaps in your employment over the last few years. Build a better credit history. Paying bills on time and paying off debts will help create a solid credit history. Make sure you have some utilities or rent in your name so that you can pay them on time and continue to build a solid credit history. Ring in 2021 in your new home. This year is the year you'll finally become a homeowner. Starting 2021 off in your new home requires sticking to your resolutions this year. With a little determination, you can save, search, and sign those papers.
note, I call it a wrap on today's program. Thanks for your time. To catch up on all you've missed or to watch previous episodes of this program, subscribe to our YouTube channel on your TV screen. Do remember to follow us on all our social media handles. Have a prosperous new year as you plan towards owning a home. I remain Flora Ani, your housing diva.